Hello and welcome to another episode of TalkGG. It's episode 3, and it wouldn't be a TalkGG episode unless I tried to fix shit in the last second. Of course, I didn't have a video for what we had for the segment later today, so I rendered that, I think, 5 minutes after we were supposed to go live. But we're finally here. It's been another week in quarantine life, and with me I have Dave. Hello, Dave.
What's up, gamers?
Yeah. So this of course normally I usually ask Dave how has your week been, but this week has been kind of out of the ordinary, even in quarantine life. There has been a lot of shit happening in America the last few days, I would say, or maybe a week as well. George Floyd being murdered, I guess, to put it lightly, and the Black Lives Matter kind of movements moving into another gear here with riots, or not riots, but protests taking place all over the country. And I felt like I wanted to just kind of say something or acknowledge it before we get into this, because it feels weird. I think both mine and Dave's feeds have just been filled with all of the things that has been happening throughout this, so it would feel weird to not say anything about it. What I wanted to say before we start this episode today is that I fully, support everything and the change that people are trying to push for in America and what Black Lives Matters are doing. And I feel like I'm very far away from what's actually happening. I'm a Swedish white dude, I've half across the world, but a lot of my friends are in America and are experiencing this firsthand. And America, as I guess for a Western country, has been it might be sounded like overly profound, as you said before, Dave, but it's for Western countries outside America, they do take a lot of media space, and the country has kind of functioned as a beacon of democracy for a lot of countries, where you look to America to see what is happening as a reference point. So I think I speak for a lot of us when we do want to see change, even outside of America. We want you guys to have the best as well. So I deeply hope that something will change soon. And I know, because yeah, we talked about it a bit, Dave and I, and there was the Minnesota, what is it, Freedom Fund, but
Yeah.
but I say, as you said too, they have gotten too many funds even.
They've gotten
uh,
so much money that they would prefer it if we directed our support to some of the other groups
yeah.
that they listed out. I'll list them real quick. I don't know if we can drop them in the show notes or whatever
Yeah,
later.
and just to give some context, this is just to kind of give some people, if they want to support the cause or the change that is kind of people are trying to push for in America right now, then yeah, just for context sake, because people might not understand.
Yeah, if you want to look them up, they're called the Black Visions Collective, Reclaim the Block, North Star Health Collective. And there was a tweet that I was retweeting who added the Louisville Bail Fund.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, thank you for I guess kind of like taking the time to do this, because I've had a lot of trouble, I don't know, kind of thinking about this. Like,
Mm.
obviously it's been on my mind and it's been pretty difficult to think about, but I'm glad we're at least able to I guess use whatever platform we do have to at least say, like, hey, this is a serious deal, this is something that's going on. And I even just saw on my feed earlier now that, like, even in London there are protests
Yes.
in solidarity
Yeah.
with
Yeah. And
basically so many of the cities in the States now. And it's
yeah.
kind of it's overwhelming. I mean, it's kind of crazy, like
And
I'm glad it's happening, but at the same time, it's I feel like it's uh unfortunately, it has to come to something like this, right?
yeah, and I mean, it's not only spreading to the UK, it's also, I believe it's been getting really big traction in Germany as well. And there was a similar incident in Japan where a non-Japanese person got kind of roughed up by police officers
Yeah,
for no reason. So
I think it was like a Kurdish person,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, a Kurdish guy. Yeah, and so you know, it's kind of spreading across the entire world, and that's kind of what I was trying to refer to. That you know, we look to America in a lot of ways, and they take a lot of space in media, which is you know for the better and better and worse in some cases. But in this case, it's like we all do want to see some positive change.
I was about to be like, "Ha, you Europeans finally admitted it." No, I'm just kidding.
No,
If
no,
anything, I'm like, I wouldn't want. I almost like don't want that to be the case because
mm,
like I don't know, dude. Like I've been taught my whole life like, yeah, you know, America's a shining beacon of hope, blah blah blah.
yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I don't know, dude.
No, 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 and I say that with the intention of also, you know, maybe it's not 100% correct, but that's the vision that has been pushed in a lot of senses. So
Yeah, yeah.
but in either case, if you want to support that, please check out what Dave mentioned earlier. Today, unfortunately, that's not what we had planned to discuss for our episode. In this episode today, we're going to discuss, you know, we have our two topics, the esports, uh, just esports news, I wanted to say, but sometimes it's not even news. Today, it's not news. Today, we're going to talk about what makes good esports casting, and later on, we will also talk about Reddit and the clickbaity title that Dave shows was, does it deserve to be called the front page of the internet? So thank you for listening to this intro section, and we'll just get right into the episode. So when it comes to this topic, what makes good esports casting? I think it's something that is both dear to me and Dave because it's something that we've kind of had close to heart. I've tried to get into it in certain ways, and I think Dave has had. You have also had some kind of intention of casting at some point, or at least being, you know, with closer to esports in that sense. So.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So basically, what we had thought out here was just that it's esports casting is definitely something that we as competitive gamers just or nerds, I guess, cherish, and I think all throughout the last decade, and I think it's definitely one thing that keeps us engaged when we watch anything esports related. Um, you can have a good and great event and stellar production, even some you know super talented players, but even if you have all of those things, if you don't have good esports casting, then the event will feel incredibly empty. And you really need someone to be there to tell you what's going on and what's actually happening in the game. And yeah, so that's what we're going to focus on today. And it's a I think for us too, it's actually like a huge topic. I think before we started here, it's like, God damn, can we have like 3 to 4 hours of you know nostalgia mixed with like hot debates, you know? But
Hot debates.
yeah, exactly. No, but it's I think there's a lot of different things here, and for us, you know, we have a bit of experience with it, but fortunately, I have asked esports casters this question, so we can actually base our conversation around that. I almost forgot it, and I think I saw that on your camera that you know we actually do have a recorded clip for that, and that's something I wanted to try for this episode to actually see. So it's not just us numbnuts talking our heads out. We can actually listen to people who are serious about this thing or have earned money or are professionals. So we're gonna take a look at that video and then we're gonna get back to us.
In my experience, good commentary can be found at the intersection of understanding your game and understanding your audience. Right? It's very important that we all understand the role of a commentator is to translate what is going on screen. You are a translator. You're taking several crazy, fast-paced actions that are happening on screen and putting words to them so that your audience can understand the intricacies of what is going on. But you have to be flexible, right? If you are going too jargon-heavy to an audience that doesn't understand, you're going to lose their interest. And likewise, if you're saying a lot of buzzwords but not saying much that really has some meat to it, to a group that is maybe a bit more familiar with the game, they're not going to enjoy it either. So once you understand that, you can refine your knowledge, you can try to come up with new phrases, try to come up with new jargon, better ways to more effectively work with that basic premise of being a translator. As for how you do it, just be enthusiastic. That's the one language that everybody understands.
Okay, so for me, one of the things that I consider to be like a major cornerstone of esports casting is essentially learning to work with your own voice. And like a lot of people throw around like developing your own style and what that means and all that sort of stuff. But more specifically and more technically, learning to work with your own personal cadence and vocabulary and inflection in order to be able to deliver the sort of interesting commentary, whatever it might be, whether it's color or analysis or anything, just learning what your voice sounds like and learning how to be able to foster that into a positive thing and not simply try to force yourself into that esports shoutcaster mold that I feel like is a trap that a lot of people fall into, which leads to, you know, the sort of memes that we get about commentary being a little bit too cookie cutter.
What makes good esports casting? I think having good knowledge of the players, good knowledge of the game, that's just a solid foundation that can carry you anywhere. What allowed me to be a strong commentator in the early days of Melee, and just throughout Melee, right, was the fact that I played the game a lot competitively. I knew about the players. I knew them so much as even as friends that I would have a whole lot of knowledge that even co-casters wouldn't have because they didn't know them on the same level as I did. So sometimes just being able to know about the game and being able to know about the game and at the same time know the history about the players, know of the players, things like that, all of that will just make all the things fall into the place. Like once I had that foundation, all I needed to do beyond that, once I had the knowledge base, was to let my personality shine through. But yeah, another thing to note, I forgot. Good esports casting, being able to have a good knowledge base when it comes to the players, the game, understanding how to have a conversation with your co-caster. Give and take is very important. You could know a whole lot about the game, but you can be seen as a bad caster to the people watching if all you do is cut off your co-caster every single time and don't let him get a word in edgewise. They'll be like, man, this guy's amazing, but he never lets other people talk.
We're back. So yeah, unfortunately I was talking too much to Dave during that video, but basically they all make great points and they're all great people. Nine Hole Grains, Bitmap, and D1 are, you know, very old friends of mine. Nine Hole Grains is someone who's worked a lot with Splatoon. He has pretty much casted all of the big events for Splatoon when it comes to like E3, stuff like that. And I can't remember the name of the guy he casts with at Nintendo, but he's in like basket broadcasting, and he has him as a mentor, and it's a really cool thing because he's I guess he's co-caster. He's like professional since a long time back, so it's kind of really cool to see someone from sports and, you know, someone from esports kind of integrating like that. Bitmap has done a lot of stuff for Lethal League Blaze, and it's really interesting because Lethal League Blaze is a small esports competitive community, but Bitmap has such great production value, and like he like they have been doing so much great stuff for that community. And D1, of course, is a legendary Super Smash Bros. Caster who's also delved into other games at points. But they're all you know, really big in their respective communities. So one of the things that basically, if I try to summarize some of their arguments, there is that Nine Hole Grains talks a lot about adaptability, how basically casters need to know what kind of audience they have. They need to know, like, okay, what audience do I have and how do I speak to them? If they're not gamers, then I have to change my language and the words that I use. Which is super important. Bitmap, on the other hand, focused more on basically the caster itself. Like, if you feel that you have a certain voice or a certain personality, try to work with that instead of forcing something that isn't there. And in a lot of cases, that can be something that to use of your own advantage. So that's more of like advice to casters themselves. D1, I think, spoke mostly from his own experience, and that clip, yes, it was from a stream. I asked him on stream because I thought, why not, when I have him alive there. And he talked on a point that I felt kind of was very dear to me, which was basically that something that he did a lot when he started out in Super Smash Bros. Melee was that he learned a lot about the community. He tried to focus on becoming like an encyclopedia for the game and its community, so that he could recite anything at any given point and basically have the dictionary laid out for him, so that when a situation arises, he just knows how to talk about it because it's natural to him. And all of these things, they're like different parts of it. He also mentions the dynamic with co-casters, which is something that we were probably going to bring up with Tastosis, I think we have in our notes. But it's definitely a lot of different good points. I don't know if any one of them stuck out more than the other, Dave, or
I really like D1's comment about like becoming an encyclopedia for the game, because I feel like out of the I mean, all three of them are really great pieces of advice, right? And really great insight. I think I thought about how I would go about something like this personally, and I feel like I've been told by some people that like one of my best not traits or maybe traits, like one of the best things I could do is be prepared for everything. And I feel like what D1 said really resonates with me, in the sense that like, yeah, if you're able to become knowledgeable in something like to a very competent degree, then like, yeah, you're basically gonna be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Here's a definition for this. Like I can refer to this. It's a lot of work, for sure, but I feel like that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're like, I think coming into a scene as like an upstart, right? And I
yeah.
was also thinking like, he was saying like, do you know how to have a conversation with your co-caster? And I was like, so do we know how to do that? Are we competent in this?
I feel like, if anything, Dave, I feel like if we were ever put on that dream Overwatch like stage that we had envisioned when we lived in Japan, was I definitely don't think that would be a problem. But I agree.
I would
And
hope so, right?
yeah, no, but I feel it. But I feel also that the stuff that D1 kind of resonated with me as well. And just for context, for anyone who's watching this or listening to this afterwards, is that so I didn't do a lot of casting when I was in Japan, but after I came back to Sweden, I basically went full, like all in on trying to do content for a game called ARMS, which is basically a streamlined fighting game for the Nintendo Switch. So I went like completely all in on that game, and I tried to cast as many online tournaments as possible, which later on, I think maybe 1 or 2 years into doing that, made me fly to America for a short visit in Wisconsin.
Forced you into flying to America. No, I was kidding.
No, and not forced it, but yeah, no, it was a great experience. I went to the what is it, Smash and Splash 4, which is
Yeah.
held at a like water park in Wisconsin, and I casted there. And then I also was fortunate to do some casting for Nintendo in Scotland, and finally I did a Smash event in like a regional Smash event in Sweden, together with Bowie the Hero, which is a prominent Smash caster. So and for me, I feel that I had the same way of learning how to cast, the same way that D1 did, was that, and that's something that spawned from insecurity, to be honest. Because I feel like, and that's something I've been kind of struggling with when it comes to casting, is that I don't feel like I've found my, personality, or the thing that makes me a caster, that makes me like unique from other casters. So the way that I have combated that was that I just try to learn as much as I can about everything about the game, everything about the player, because at least I have that. At least I have that to fall back on, and then
Yeah.
maybe I can build something on top of that. And that's the hard part, like trying to make a personality. And that kind of goes into what Bipmap was talking about, working with your voice, and finding like I guess, yeah, but a personality or trait that you can like use to your advantage. And
Have you ever thought about your own voice? Like,
Yes, I
Like how
have.
you sound
Yes.
and like whether you like it or not.
I to be honest, the most annoying thing about my own voice that I've heard, because I've listened back to how I casted, right, to try to improve my voice, and how
Uh-huh.
kind of like how Bitman was talking about there. And I think the main thing that bothers my voice, at least, is that it's very nasal, or it sounds nasal to me, and I don't think I can change that. Like, maybe I could force myself to talk like this, but it would be so cringy, and I would probably like destroy my voice at or something, try to
Yeah, with
negate
like
it.
vocal frying. No,
Yeah,
I have the same problem, dude. Like no one ever told me growing up that I sound like a robot.
like a text to speech, or
Yeah, dude. Like no, because the first time I got to listen to myself talk, I was like, oh my gosh, I do not sound like that, do I? And yeah, no, you do. Like, oh, okay.
but I think I honestly have never thought that thought, so that's interesting to hear from my end as well. But I think
That is great. That's insane.
no, I okay, we're not gonna go too much into like feedback of each
Yeah.
other's voice here, but I think when I think of your voice, Dave, I think of like it just sounds professional. That's the only thing I can think of.
Ooh. You're blowing my mind right now. Like I just don't understand.
It's I don't know, that's just how I think of that. So, but
I'm flattered.
yeah,
That's for sure.
good to hear. Good vibes here.
Yeah.
So I guess oh yeah, and finally, 9-hole grains. I guess if you go through all of these 3 topics, is that 9-hole grains was looking more into, I guess,
Adaptability and kind of going with the flow of the audience, right? I think that's super important because yeah, I feel like I've seen. I mean, different casters have different like flavors, so to speak, right? They have different ways to commentate something. They all have different senses of humor and stuff like that. And so I really like to see when casters are able to kind of change things up in a way that doesn't change their identity, but like caters to the audience better, right?
Yeah, and but at the same time, I feel like 9-hole grains is probably, or 9, easier to say. I think 9 has been in a pretty unique situation as well, because he has casted within the Splatoon community, which is a pretty hardcore fan base, and then he's also casted at events such as like E3, which is basically for people, like the majority of people who is watching the cast have never played the game, right? So they have to.
It's the most normie event you could go to.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
But I mean, seriously though, like, so he has definitely been in those shoes of like trying to find ways to explain really nerdy stuff and make it sensible for people who don't even play games, right?
Right.
And I feel like someone who is really great at doing that is EE. I don't know if if you know of him, but he's done a lot of stuff in Smash throughout the years. I think maybe I don't know if it's a decade, but he's been around for a
Oh,
long
wow.
time, pretty much as long
OG.
as D1, I would say. Maybe it came a bit after, around Brawl, I think. So Melee first and then Brawl, right? And he's one of my favorite casters, and I was so glad I came to think of him now in this kind of situations, because EE has a unique skill of finding new ways to explain stuff. So he will like use analogies or metaphors that can be so funny and come from nowhere, like you won't expect them. And sometimes they're very like, not safe for work kind of stuff, which kind of plays into, the fighting game community being more relaxed. Yeah, someone in chat here says E is an amazing casting. Yeah, for sure. And I think EE is very special in that regard, because he has also done I've seen him host bigger events, which is more esportsy, and he can dial that back. Like he can really just become like, the professional interviewer, and then like,
oh, that's fantastic.
and then when he goes on to the Smash cast, he can be like, that, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna talk like he does, but he's like talking about clapping cheeks like constantly, and like it's just
you
like
can take the tie off.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, a lot of what he does really impresses me when it comes to esports casting, because there's very few like him. I would say that.
Oh, that's good. That means he's super unique.
Yeah,
Dude,
and
it's really funny, like for the people who are listening and they won't be able to see this. It's just super funny because like there's like a breeze blowing through where you're recording from, and like the background of your room is like a curtain of like
library.
a bookshelf, yeah.
Yeah.
But it just keeps moving behind you, and I'm like, why are the books moving?
Oh, you just noticed? Okay.
No, I mean, like, I know that I know that you put a sheet up, right? But like because you have like normally a breeze isn't blowing through your
Yeah. Okay.
recording
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
room,
Yeah.
right?
It's a different thing. It's summer times now, but yeah. No.
Yeah, it's like you're talking and just all of a sudden the sheet just starts moving behind you. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah. It's
a
good
haunted
though.
library.
Yeah. No, but I think one of the things that I think that was the kind of the first interaction we had was when we talked about the GSL, right? Because I think I found your like YouTube channel like way back in the day.
Dude, when we were was this when we were naked at the hot spring?
You can't, you can't say that in a cast. No,
Well,
yeah.
I can't say that. Why not?
No, but it's. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. We went to an onsen, all right.
It was like it was our second time meeting too. It was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it
No.
really was.
Yeah, no, it's funny because yeah, it had to have been that time, because if you had if you had found my YouTube channel, I would assume it was because like we had met previously,
Mm.
and maybe you had like asked your girlfriend,
Yeah,
or
no.
like
Yeah.
you had talked to each other, and
Yeah.
yeah, like wait, so you found oh yeah, it was a video of like my brother-in-law's cat.
Yes, exactly. It's
He was like
that's the
licking
one.
himself, but you're like in the background. I heard Tastosis commentating the GSL, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, that was totally happening."
So, for anyone who doesn't know them, Tastos is like a combination, a combined name of the nicknames Tasteless and Artosis, and they're pretty much the legendary casting duo, the casting archon, quote unquote, in StarCraft and StarCraft 2, and they're absolutely my number one favorite casting duo. And so like just hearing them on a low volume in a video in the background, like holy shit, that's Tastosis. So I
Yeah,
just
that was straight up like that was like a true nerd moment,
yeah.
you know, where it's like this is something that like we're the only two people in this entire vicinity who are
Yeah.
going to like relate in this way.
But and just to kind of I guess just maybe explain why I like them so much. It's just that I
Their
guess
chemistry is really good.
yeah, their
I mean,
chemistry is great. Yeah.
they practically grew up together, right?
Mm.
Because if you are able to take the time to dig into their pasts, like you'll know that Tasteless is the older brother of Day9, who became this like fairly popular educational StarCraft streamer. Both Tasteless and Artosis competed for quite a while, and they're some of the like pioneers of the original Brood War scene here in North America, right? And yeah, but I love their story because like oh, you had I don't know if you want to share the video from what was
Oh
it
yeah, I know which video you're talking about.
before score. No, but I mean the
Oh,
video
yeah.
that talks about shoutcasting.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
it harkens back to so many like old school events and like just casters and stuff like that in general, that it does remind me of when Tasteless said he was like in Singapore, I believe, and he had gotten knocked out pretty early in the tournament, but he was listening to the guy commentating, and he was like, what is this guy talking about? So he like goes over there and he's like, hey, you need some help, like I can help you like commentate and stuff. And that's where he just started like talking about the game, and people enjoyed it, and the people organizing the event were like, yeah, you're good, dude, can you like keep doing this type of stuff? And he's like, yeah, sure, like why not? you know. And he had no like plans for the future, so to speak. He was just like, I just want to keep playing Brood War, and like, wow, people want to pay me to like talk about it, like sure. And next thing you know, he's like after a series of just jumping all over the place, like he moves to Korea
Yeah.
to commentate StarCraft.
Yeah, and I think so. The video I was thinking about is a great video that basically it captures one of the events where Artosis and Tasteless are basically they're play and Day 9, of course. They're all three of them are at this like World Cyber Games tournament or something.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a fantastic video that if anyone loves esports or esports casting, you have to watch this. It's so incredible because basically you get all the three perspectives of these three very influential esports profiles talking about this event, and you have someone has recorded everything, and it's like back in the day, you know, just before everything got to live streaming and stuff, someone has recorded all of this, and like you can
Yeah,
see
this is
there.
before people recorded stuff like
Yeah, but just
easily.
yeah, exactly. Like he had to tape that shit, you know. So and for esports, the esports, I guess, community and like stuff, it feels wild to think about. Like what the fuck? That was before like the YouTube era. It's like what that's ancient times, you know.
Yeah, that's actually how quote unquote old it is.
Yeah, and so basically this entire video goes from them talking about the oh yeah, sorry about the link in chat there for anyone listening. It gets blocked out, but yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, the video basically goes in to talk about their feelings about the entire event, their dynamic between each other, how they know each other. Artosis actually didn't seem to like them very much back then, and then at the end, you know, there's just like this. Oh yeah, I think he even Tasteless himself is like, oh, I think I'm gonna talk about some guys about I potentially casting, and then he like walks away, and that's legit the moment he goes to become a caster that makes his entire life up until now, which is like, it's insane. But it, you know, aside from the fact of nostalgia, I think just kind of going into Tastosis as besides them actually being great for chemistry, I think it's they have a different kind of thing where I think the three casters we saw mentioned earlier in the video was they were talking from their own perspective, right, as a singular person. But the different situation that Tasteless and Artosis has is that they're a duo, so they can complement each other, which creates this really interesting dynamic of that, you know, Tasteless has been the kind of, you know, yelling guy. He's like, he normally doesn't go into the nitty gritty. He can do that, and he has always been able to do that, but he just kind of naturally found himself into that role because people liked it. And then Artosis kind of naturally drifted to the other direction of becoming this more analyst sounding guy. And that's almost, almost makes me think of how Bip was talking about, you know, using your voice to your advantage. And if you listen to Artosis and Tasteless, basically Tasteless has this super deep voice, like raspy voice, and he can like really, you know, when he hypes up a crowd, he's like, let's get into it, like he really shouts. But if Artosis did the same thing, it would be something like, let's get into it. Like he can't do that shit. So I'm almost wondering if that's almost something that they kind of decided on over time, because what it does is that, like, you know exactly who is going to say what in the game. Like, you know where you have both of these guys. So it's almost like an on-rails experience when you listen to them. It's like the entire thing. They're funny. They have the dynamic. They have the conversations up. They talk about so many different things besides the game, and you still keep yourself engaged. And I don't know. It's almost like a sheet to be two people. And that's, I guess, why they're called the casting Archon, because they've almost fused at this point, which is insane. I think they've also casted, you know, we talked about D1 and like EE. They've casted for, I mean, I guess a decade or nearly a decade, but at least I think. And these two, they've been casting together for more than a decade. Like it's it's two people, you know. But it's insane. I don't know.
If you don't know what an Archon is, it's a unit in StarCraft. It takes two people two units to combine to become this one giant ball of energy.
Yeah.
It was a play on their whole like StarCraft identities. I
Yeah,
mean, I
sorry.
feel like I mean, yeah, you're right. It could be a case of like either they decided it together. And it's funny because yeah, I feel like in the beginning when they're competitive players, yeah, Artosis was more like this grumpy old dude who like didn't want to socialize with anyone, right? And it's just ironic that honestly they became like best of friends, right? You know, they moved to Korea together. They casted for over a decade together. I mean, they're still doing it to this day, basically. You know,
Yeah.
I saw Tasteless stream the other day. Like he started streaming again, and all of his sub alerts are Artosis voice lines from like previous casts and stuff like that. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like their personalities really fit. Like they create one of the perfect like manzai duos to like
Yeah.
pull a reference from like Japanese comedy.
I think you have to explain that too.
It's like to me it's really strange to explain in English because one of the translations of the roles is like straight man, and then the other one is like what is boke? It's like the idiot or
Yeah.
I mean it's
something like that. Funny dude, I guess.
Yeah, like one person is the very serious, like let's talk about like the facts and like the analysis and stuff like that, and the other person is like I make jokes, and it's like oh I got it like, and then they play off that energy of like here's something very very serious, and then someone says oh but this is totally unrelated and like funny, and then the other guy goes no like that's not what you're supposed to say in this moment, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the chemistry that they have.
Yeah. And I think it's worth to mention, you know, I mean, I think both you and I are aware, but like a common concept that there is talked about in esportscast, and I'm assuming sportscasting too, but I don't have any knowledge about that besides, you know, watching a few soccer games. But is that you have the color commentator and I guess the shoutcaster, I guess, which is basically like the
play-by-play caster, right?
Play-by-play. Sorry, exactly. The play-by-play and the color commentator. So basically, that means that you have the play-by-play who's just saying everything that is happening on the screen, like basically summarizing all the information that is going on the screen, and then you have the color commentator who adds the I guess context to everything. Like, okay, we just saw this happen. What does that mean? What kind of position do you know, does this place both of these players? And that's really interesting because one of the things I wanted to bring up was just the difference between esports commentary and I guess esports quote unquote commentary in fighting games, because usually these two are almost separated as two different categories. Both are video games, both are competitive tournaments, but there are significant differences between these two communities, which stems from, you know, both economical, like FGC fighting game community is more grassroots based. It doesn't have as much money as you know, the corporate, some parts corporate esports world, where you have like these huge setups and like you have you know, stadiums of League of Legends and Dota, while in FGC you maybe have, you know, you have Evo, which is the most prestigious event, but that's a combination of several games. It's not one game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was about to say, like, I went to Evo in 2018, and I felt like it was, I was like, wow, this is crazy, you know? But like, yeah, you're right. When you kind of like think about how long it took for the FGC, the fighting game community, to like get there, versus like, you know, the other week we talked about the Overwatch League and how it was basically a corporate injection of like investor money, right? So there is a very big difference. And yeah, I was gonna ask like, oh, what can you describe really briefly what the difference is? And that actually makes a lot of sense.
And that's on a structural level, like the differences of like what makes them, right? But in terms of esports casting, it also kind of, it almost pushes into the different directions, because the games that are esports right now, you know, looking at Counter-Strike or Dota or League of Legends, because we had one of the notes you just described me like pacing, you know, in a lot of the games that we have today that are esports, they are long games. You know, a Counter-Strike match can be up to 3 hours. A Dota game, just and like a set, I would say, like a best of 3 of Counter-Strike could be like 3 hours. I think one map at one point was like up to 2 hours because they had back-to-back overtime.
Man.
And then, you know, Dota can be, one singular game can be over an hour.
Yeah.
And you have these kind of different sense. But in FGC, you have usually, if you check a broadcast, like say Smash Brothers or Tekken or Street Fighter, there's actually comparing like the, what is it, the gameplay on screen and the people talking between the games. I think it's like way less gameplay in FGC because the rounds can be between 60 and like 99 seconds or something. And rounds.
Fighting game rounds go quick.
And then when they finish, you don't really have time to explain what happened until the next round begins. And then someone is eliminated. They just bounce
that's
out.
very true.
And then you have
point.
like 5 minutes to maybe fill the gap of like trying to explain that before the next game comes in. Very rarely there's been a lot of events for the FGC. Street Fighter has gotten into that lately, where they had a setup with Red Bull, where they've started to get into this kind of esportsy production. Dragon Ball Z has also gone into that, where they have this, you know, fancy studio setup, and the analysts, and then, you know, between they have a break, and then, okay, let's look at what happened in this replay here. And I think those two different worlds adds to the fact that the commentary makes them so different, because you know, like the pacing becomes so different in a Counter-Strike match. Even within a match, like let's say one set of Counter-Strike, one best of 3, right, is 3 hours. Then you have first to 16 in each game, and each round is like comprised of like 3 to 4 minutes, and then a minute of what is it, starting up, a half a minute of starting up, or 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah, like the buy phase and everything.
Yeah, so it's very like structured in that way. You know exactly how long something is gonna take, and usually if it takes shorter, then a lot of things will suggest that will happen. You know, people like in Counter-Strike, you know, they buy certain weapons, and everyone is going through a certain corridor. Okay, this is gonna end in the next 30 seconds. We know what's gonna happen. And then the casters can really adapt to that situation. Okay, now I need to start, you know, hyping stuff up. I need to fuck the analytics, or like we need just to go into this and start screaming, right? In fighting games, on the other hand, something can look really equal, and then it can just end instantly.
Yeah, it can flip like so quickly.
Yeah, and a good example of this is in Tekken. So in Tekken, there is what is it? There's a lot of like juggling combos. So like when you hit someone, they fly up into the air, and depending on the combo that you do, you either kill the opponent or you don't, right? So I think the point that I'm trying to make here is that these two different setups lend to different skills. And so when talking about what makes good esports casting, I almost feel like there's two different genres, because esports is like, to me, it almost feels like a day job, you know, day job kind of vibe, like in the sense that, you know, you go there, you have a couple of hours, you explain stuff happens. But like FGC in another way is just like things are sporadically happening, and you have to try to capture it. Like there's sometimes especially FGC events, since they don't have the same level of organization. And D1 talked about it on his stream. I think, I don't know if it was caught in those clips, but he talked about it later on. It was like, you know, sometimes he can just get this like, by the way, you know, talk for an hour. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, you know, him and the co-caster, they have to like just shoot the shit for another hour.
Time for the next hour.
Or maybe they don't even know the time. They're just like, oh, we're going to have to fill some time. And then it can become an hour. While in esports, it's like, fuck, dude, like someone cut a cord, play the commercial and go to break. And then they just like, all right, and after the break we'll blah 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 blah, and then
Then they
they
set
have
up the couch area and like, so the analyst, like the desk, like, what do you guys think about what happened?
Yeah, and so, and I mean, they can also fill for a long time, but I feel
Yeah.
like they're two different beings almost, and if we take a look at the examples that we've talked about, EE and D1 as an example versus, you know, Tastosis, I feel like they have almost made themselves, like EE and D1 have almost been in such extreme situations from FGC that they can pretty much put themselves in any game or any event and then just like feel comfortable with that. I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
that
great.
Tastosis, yeah, I don't think that Tastosis wouldn't feel comfortable with that, but just that I think the, I guess, stamina or resilience from the FGC is like a completely different beast than what it is in esports. I don't know if that, you know, makes sense.
Did you
but
feel that way about ARMS?
yes, personally, I think like I wanted to get into esports. And I guess that's my bias shining through here, but I think I wanted to get into esports because you do have these moments of like, okay, it's so structured that you know when you can focus on you know when you can focus on improving yourself. But a lot of the events that I've hosted or been to, they've been so chaotic that I don't know what's going on before it happens, and then you have a game, and then people are starting to like, someone is winning, oh shit, like talk about that,
Yeah.
and trying to kind of make sense of that entire situation is very it's a really interesting challenge. But I've definitely felt that in ARMS, and a lot of the times in FGC you have casters that are just like, you know, Jesus, have they been sitting there for 6 hours? Yeah, dude. And the difference between that and esports is maybe both of them are sitting in 6 hours, but in esports they've taken breaks, they've done stuff, or you know, in between. In FGC they can literally have no commercial breaks and talk for 6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
That's how Tasteless like messed up his throat too. Like
yeah.
he would cast for so long
Mm.
that
And
yeah,
that's
his like vocal cords were damaged.
and that's, I think, is something from the earlier era of esports. Like now I think esports is finally, and you know, that's, I would only say like in the highest level of esports you've finally gone past that. In the middle
Yeah.
and like lower level, you've, of course,
Yeah,
there's
where you're
like,
actually making a proper salary for it and everything.
exact, I mean, I haven't watched them, but I can assume that there's been like like dozens of Valorant tournaments, this closed beta of like
Oh,
people
right.
trying to make it, and they're like casting for like 12 hours and like trying to kind of get
Oh,
through to people.
insane.
But I don't know how to summarize this topic, man. Like it's such a big topic, but
Yeah, we might have bitten off more than we can chew. Because one thing I was going to ask you was like if you could really briefly summarize like the difference between casting in different languages. Like,
oh yeah,
because I think you have way more experience with this than I do. Because you've showed me some casts like in Swedish. I've tuned into like Japanese streams in the past, but like I don't think I have like so much knowledge to truly comment on something like that. But have you watched like events casted in all three languages?
yeah. So that's actually something that one of my, you know, putting something. Oh jeez, yeah, this thing behind me is really just like flying off here.
Yeah, it's going wild, dude.
It's good though. I have air in here. Otherwise, I would like pass out.
Yeah.
So yeah, languages in esports. I usually just have a random stream on in the background, and usually I also just try to listen to how other languages sound. And the benefit of now just, you know, speaking Swedish and English and a bit of Japanese, I try to listen to all three of those particularly. And the interesting part for me between those three languages is that I think English is the most broad language where you can have different personalities shine through. You can have so many different people being unique in their own way and express themselves in different ways, because English is just such a, I guess.
Well, to be fair, there's so many more English speakers in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can be explained in that way, but when listening to Swedish esports casting, which is usually for mainly Counter-Strike or League of Legends, it's very interesting because they've pretty much taken how football or soccer commentary sounds like, and then just like straight off rip that into to esports. And Swedish football or soccer casting is very much just like two old dudes like just talking like it's very hard to explain in English, but they're very like calm and collected. They usually don't freak out. Very rarely like they would, you know, start screaming and stuff like that. And it's very much the, I guess if I would say it in English, it's just like, yep, and we see this guy doing this thing, and yeah, well, now we're gonna cut to this guy, and now he's doing this thing. What do you think about this? Well, I think that this guy is doing this thing, and he should probably do this thing. It's like very monotone and like, to me, and it sounds very like, sounds exactly like how when I hear soccer. And there's usually,
and that's not particularly like indicative of how Swedish is spoken, right?
No, and I think it's just how people have been speaking when talking about sports like football. They've just, and there's a lot of analogies, like a lot of, you know, metaphors that are like specific to Swedish, because that makes Swedish people feel at home, and even more so in esports, because they're like, you know, they don't really have that much history, so they're just using as much like, how can I make this cozy for a Swedish listener. On the other hand, ARMS is something that has made me listen a lot more to Japanese casting, and kind of comparing the two. Smash and ARMS is like a lot of English and Japanese casting. A lot of events have dual commentary, like they have one stream for Japanese and one stream for English, right? And the interesting part there is that Japanese, from what I've gathered, is that Japanese is very, you know, by design structured. You know, we've talked about this earlier, I think, off cast, but like, you know, it's almost like you're reading a script, right? In daily conversations, when you have like regular conversations, how you approach like a coworker and stuff like that. There's a script that you follow. People kind of follow it along, and the same thing happens in esports, where it's like, or this more FGC, but in PUBG and Apex too, it's just that I rarely feel that they say something new, and I feel especially because ARMS was the one that I've listened the most to. I could not tell when there was a new round. They were just saying the same thing over and over and over, and I think that
it's like very calm too, right?
Sometimes, you know, it can just be the like Korean casting where it's just like screaming.
Yeah, because they can get pretty passionate. Like I'm thinking more of like I've watched clips of like Japanese racing, like drifting and stuff like that. And yeah, some of that commentary is like absolutely insane. Like they're just like at the top of their they're like blowing their lungs out. They're going crazy over like how fast is one guy's going.
Yeah.
And I feel like that does exist in like esports, but
yeah.
I think that's more the exception than the norm.
I think in general, just mindlessly screaming, I feel, and this might sound weird, but like it's a trend in Asia, like when it comes to just like cast that I've heard from Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, and Japan. Like a lot of the times it's just like, and people love that. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that it's a trend more there. That's like sometimes they just like it's just screaming. It's not even words. Even in Japanese, they just go like, yeah, and then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I get hyped by that, but it's a different thing.
Have you ever watched that video where it's like the Korean casting, and it's like, oh my gosh, was it League of Legends?
Yeah,
but
probably.
This one guy's like, this guy's coming after your $1 million home. This guy's coming after your $10 million home. He's coming after the $100 million home. And he's like, the bear. like he's like screaming like oh like bear in Korean is like kon. He's like kon, and like the guy who edited the video made it look so perfect because it looks like he's just screaming for like a minute straight.
And to be honest, I've heard that in Japanese commentary as well, and I think, but it's just very much that. And this again, this might be personal bias against the language as well, but since I don't speak it, fluently, but from what I've heard, it very much sounds like they, to me, I feel like English has a lot of different words for the same thing. Like, and EE is a perfect example of that. Okay, the same situation has happened like thousands of times for him, but he can find a new analogy, some booty clap metaphor. I don't fucking know. It doesn't have to be that, Sometimes he makes some so funny metaphors that just makes me laugh my ass off. It's like it can be the most wild thing, like commenting someone's clothes and like bringing it in, some style that he will capture. And then in Japanese,
I've noticed that I tend to like commentators who do that, like who can speak in analogies to describe like what we're seeing on screen.
Yeah, and it's very much also like comedic, like how he does it. But in Japanese, it's very much like, there's one word for most of the things. Like he did the grab. There's one hit left. There's this thing. He won. Like you can't say those things in very many different ways in Japanese, I feel like. And so for me, that actually makes me not engaged into it because I know already what they're gonna say. While, in a professional like Apex tournament or Smash, I can get so surprised at what is being said that it adds to the experience.
I see.
Instead of just being a part of it. Actually, that sounded like super profound in some way, but I guess that's the point, right? I guess that's the point with esports commentary. It's supposed to add to the experience, in my opinion. Yeah. And I feel like that in English, that's done the same of the languages that I've heard and that I know of.
Gotcha. So if I wanted to become a caster, how would I get started? What do I need to do to practice?
You're asking me. I think
you have more experience than I do.
Yeah, okay, but sure. Like I'm struggling myself now because I want to cast Valorant, right? But I don't know where to begin. I think there are different ways to do it. Otherwise, like there's so many people playing games now, and everyone wants to be seen. And I think you can find really. You don't even have to be the one streaming. There's always people looking to have someone talking for a stream. Not at the highest level. You're not gonna get paid for that or anything by any means. But I think if you looked into the right Discord for Valorant, I bet you're gonna find like at least 10 streams of like, guys, we have $30 prize pool tonight. We have one guy and he lost his voice. It's like, okay, can I join? Do you know anything about the game? I've played it once. Okay, jump into Discord. Like you and then sure, then maybe you can try it. And I feel like, it's very much more open than because it's so immature, like the industry itself.
I can just imagine it now. Like, all right, we got the stage on one side. Just check in the corner. All right, and here comes Brimstone. Oh no, it's over.
And I think, but yeah, and that's a good thing because if you have that, then the chat, if there is even one chat for that stream, is just gonna blast that person into pieces. But you like how, but at the same time, I love that because for me, it's like, okay, if you ask that same question about, okay, how do I get into football commentary?
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're supposed to do. Are you supposed to go to the freaking field and like start talking? Like you film it off your phone? Like what do you do? Like you have to audition to some media
that's a good point.
agency and some shit, like, or you illegally stream a game.
I'm just imagining a teenager on a football field now with his phone. I'm just like, and there goes Anderson passing the ball over to Johnson, and there goes the kick. It's a bit too far off. A referee comes over, like, excuse me, son, what are you doing here?
Yeah, and meanwhile, you legit have teenagers now that have access to either the setup or just a microphone and Discord. They can just join anything and just be like, yeah, I played this for 4 years. Wait, how old are you? I'm 15. It's like, oh, cool. But then that person might, grow up to be that. And the same thing, both in esports and FGC. It's like, in FGC, it's even more accessible. In FGC at like local tournaments, if you go up.
Well, that's why that one video is so popular, right? The one, oh gosh, what do you call it? It was shown in the video that was in our research notes. But it's the one where the guy, it seems like the guy's just yelling random things, but it's like, it's so entertaining that like people love it,
Ah, yeah, I can't remember that either. But no, it's basically, especially at local tournaments for FGC stuff, there's always going to be a setup that is just like there. And if one just goes there to talk with the organizer, like, hey, I want to try commentary, and it's like, yeah, I'll fit you in. And then at some point it's just going to be like, yeah, sit down at that screen, talk into that microphone, go. And then you don't have like, you're out, then you're on your own. It's very much
well, what's funny is, remember we were in Japan and you're like, oh yeah, there's this like tournament at this like random like house / no, it wasn't a house, it's like a video game shop or bar. There's the game bar.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I got this setup over here with my laptop and we're gonna commentate ARMS. And I got my buddy Dave with me, and I was like, I don't know anything about the game, but here we go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. We were in a basement.
Yeah. I was like, what's the name of this character? Like, this is Springman. Like, Springman's sending he's got the gloves on, he's going after him.
And
I got the throw.
I think if I was a better commentator, I could have probably worked with that and made that funny. But that's a different challenge on a different topic. But,
yeah. Another super famous video is the one that Wombo Combo comes from. The Smash video.
Yeah.
But man, I'm like, it was part of the video you sent me. And
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Like, I want to say it says Fruit Loops, but it's probably not it.
Oh, you mean the person who actually casted that part, or?
No. Just what were the things he was saying? I just remember it being so like.
You mean in the Wombo Combo video?
No, the other one I was thinking.
Oh, okay, because he's saying stuff like "Happy Feet."
Oh, it's Marvel Baby. Oh my gosh, there we go.
What?
It's Marvel Baby.
Oh yeah.
Like it's so famous in FGC,
Yeah, it's when's Marvel
and it's like, yeah, a lot of it is like none of it. I feel like none of it makes sense, especially as an outsider. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? But it's like so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean what is it? Yeah, I think FGC really kind of lends to that. It's just like sometimes you don't really have to be you don't really actually have to talk about the game if you just make the entire experience fun. Which
is honestly the best, right?
Yeah, it's great. Like I can't and Tekken is really great with this. Like the top personalities or the top casters in Tekken, so good. They're so good at just like you feel like you're just hanging out with a bunch of people.
I almost feel like I would rather compensate for FGC now than like regular esports.
And that lends to different things, because you also have to remember that FGC doesn't have as much money as esports. So
yeah.
While it is comfortable, it's not as nearly as not like profitable. And that also being said, that esports is like, the tiny percentage that actually earns money from casting in esports is,
Yeah.
But in either case, they're very open, and that's something I really love about esports casting. It's that it's really easy to get into comparatively against sports. But yeah, I think maybe, unless maybe you have some final comments here, Dave, but I think we're gonna round this off and go to topic number 2 very soon.
I think that was pretty good. We're all over the place, but I think, like you said, yeah, I think this is a topic that we could have actually spent an entire show on.
Yeah.
Purely because again, this is how partially how our friendship originally formed, and also something we've been talking about for a long time. Like maybe you can 10 years from now, when we're finally a competent casting duo, you can look back on this video and be like, they finally did it,
Yeah, but for sure, I guess maybe to answer it one last time, what makes good esports casting? Can you even summarize that, Dave?
Can I summarize it?
For you.
For me, it sounds like it's you gotta know your game, you gotta know your audience, and you gotta know yourself. This is some art of war shit. Like, as long as you knowledge is power. You master the principles of casting, you'll be good.
I just see like the fucking dojo shit, like you have to pass the fire stage. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you're not wrong though. Like it's but yeah, that's a final good point to end it on. We're gonna take a short break, and once we're back, we're gonna talk about Reddit. Holy shit, we really set us up for this one.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna discuss if it really truly deserves to be called the front page of the internet. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after the break. And we're back from the break with topic number 2 of the evening, which is Reddit, the front page of the internet. And I guess, Dave, you're the one who initiated this one, so I'll just let you take it away.
Oh boy. All right. So the internet has grown so much since the days before broadband. So much more information is at our fingertips, but so is much more noise. How do we figure out how to filter out the useful from the time sinks? News aggregators have existed for quite some time, but Reddit has merged 2 concepts into one: fresh content and community building. Ranked 19 in the list of most visited websites in the world, according to Alexa, does it deserve to be called the front page of the internet?
And that's, I guess, because I looked at the notes as well, and it's so funny to me because you just said no straight up.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually, I'm just kidding. I put that in for humor. No, but this is a good discussion to have because I think like we actually do want to keep this a little bit shorter, but there is a lot to Reddit as well. And so if you're not familiar with Reddit, it's a website that aggregates. It's not even a true aggregator. It's people submit content. So for example, you find an article you like, you find you have an image you want to upload, something like that, or a video that you want to share. You post it on Reddit in a specific category or topic. They're called subreddits. And once you post it up, you can add commentary to it, or you can leave it as it is with just the title, and then people can participate by commenting on what you just posted. Now, that's a very like simplified, straightforward way to describe Reddit. The big thing that I had mentioned in the intro is that it's a community-based type of website. If anything, it was born out of like the era after like BBS and forums, because forums provided a really good way for communities to kind of have discussions amongst themselves. Reddit basically takes that concept, and I feel like it makes it more quote unquote open, because now what you're doing is you have to present something external, or at least start a conversation in text, and then people can kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say asynchronously, but like, so for example, in a forum, you have to post kind of like chronologically in replies to everything that's going on. But Reddit borrows a system that kind of comes from sites before it, where you can kind of create top level comments, and then people can reply to those comments onward, so that you can have multiple like replies that kind of end up spider webbing into completely different topics later on. And I've gone through that rabbit hole way too many times.
Yeah, and I guess one more thing to mention about the website itself is like one of the essential features of Reddit is that you have the upvotes and downvotes system, where it's basically, I guess it could also be discussed of like how truthful this part of the system is, but if you think content is good, then you can vote it up. So you press like a up arrow usually, and then if you don't think that this content is good or in a good quality, but it usually also means I don't like it or I don't agree with it, and then you press the down button or down arrow button. And that's also a very interesting thing, because just that alone, because I think it even says in the guidelines, that if it isn't like quality content, then you should downvote it. But if you don't agree with it, then that's not what you should downvote. Like that's up for others then. Like if it's not what you're interested in, then why are you even looking at this thread or like this content, right?
And it's complicated because Reddit doesn't have a completely centralized like administrator moderator system.
No.
Each subreddit can be created by anyone practically, as long as it's not taken already. And you can appoint yourself the moderator of that subreddit. And one flawed system to this I've already seen is that like once you're like the head moderator of a subreddit, like you, without an administrator to like actually remove you, like no one can actually also moderate the subreddit.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
So you could like take subreddits hostage if you wanted to.
Yeah, and I do like, it's kind of interesting though, because when it's almost like taking handles of like social media accounts that you can like just steal them and then you can do whatever you want with them. Now I don't have
Yeah.
like an off the cuff like example of this, but I think that it has made for some interesting things. I think it's like mostly related to games when you like, oh, expect that this subreddit is going to be named this on Reddit, so then you search it and then you go in and there's one
Oh, I
thread.
know of one.
Oh, really?
The
Okay.
the Destiny subreddit.
Oh,
Because the Destiny subreddit is for the guy whose handle is Destiny.
yeah.
And so like everyone would go in and be like, is this the Destiny game subreddit? No, that's Destiny game.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that's interesting. No, but I think I guess the relationship I've had for Reddit for a long time has just been one of those like I don't even know when I started to go on to Reddit. That's the most scary part. I feel like it's just
Oh
like,
yeah, it's part of life now, right?
yeah, it's like
Just like esports casting.
but seriously, because I can't remember when or like why I started to go into that website. I guess it was because you know, it started to get rank higher up into the like Google searches, and like when they
Yeah.
started to implement marketing, they got in there, and then eventually you kind of got into one of the subreddits. And it's just weird to me because now when I've tried to explain Reddit to people who don't like it, they go into the website and it's like, oh, this looks like something from the 90s. It's like, yeah, but it's pretty cool, you know, you can see stuff here and you can do stuff. Like you sound like such a crazy person.
There's so much to unpack here. Because I was gonna so to some additional context is that I was mentioning news aggregators, right? Before Reddit became big, I think the site that was the most popular of its kind was Dig. And
Yeah.
people knew Dig as like this place where you could post stuff, laugh about it, post comments. And then Dig underwent some sort of large redesign. I forget if it was a leadership change or like an acquisition or something like that. But you know, basically they wanted to pivot, they wanted to change their audience in a way. And so a lot of people got pissed naturally. And then they moved over to Reddit and they flooded it. But honestly, Reddit as like a company, as an organization, they've been on this trajectory to grow for the longest time.
Yeah.
I just mentioned they're ranked number 19 in the world, and that's actually really insane to think about, considering the fact that like on the list, the Wikipedia's list of like top 50 websites of the world, like almost 50% of them are USA based and the other 50% are like China based. And I just realized, oh yeah, it's because those are the two of the largest internet populations in the world, like arguably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was a time where Reddit was considered like people would literally be like, my go-to pages are Google. You know, Google's the most used search engine in the world now, right? Like YouTube and like Reddit.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you know, like, or like you could add Facebook in there too,
Yeah,
because it's like one of those staples, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that's almost holds true today. But I think the what has come since that peak days when it was specifically those websites that you had as your, I guess, go-to start pages is that I think now these days, I I think how you view Reddit is different, because I think the more that like in those days you had, or at least I did, I think some people that I knew also did, but is you had this idea that Reddit was like impartial, you know, you can go to Reddit and then, you know, I want to know more about this topic, so you go into this subreddit.
I remember when I was naive.
Exactly. No, but seriously, like you go into that subreddit and you're like, okay, I need to know about more about this. Okay, these are the topics they talk about. Or you go into some kind of some news related things, and the latest thing will be there, so you can find it. And sometimes it will be like several versions of that, you know, from several websites, like articles and stuff like that. And now, like the more you go into this, you realize that like, okay, since it's so influenced by the who controls that part of the website, and also who controls Reddit since it's grown, I feel like you have to really not be on your toes, but you have to like realize that it's a part of a system that can be gamed, and it's a part of a system that doesn't really have control as other, like like a news website like New York Times. Like it's a specific company that control all the content. Like here you can have like, seriously, if you look at a new tab, you can like scroll across some gore stuff, or like you can find some really awful shit on the website, and before people can like remove it, because anyone can just make an account and link anything, right? And that doesn't even
Yeah.
touch upon the, how you what is shown on the website, like what is actually brought to your attention in the way that it works in the system. Like, say someone buying upvotes or stuff like that,
Oh yeah.
or just the fact that, like, I guess that comes more into like political stuff, but it's just like, if you go into the politics part of the website, it's like clearly in like like the articles that are sent, or the content that is submitted to that is clearly in one party's favor. It's not like you get both sides of anything, I think.
Right.
And that goes for the Swedish subreddits too. Like it's very interesting to see that, like, I guess, what is it, the especially the main Swedish subreddit, it has had this like growing, I guess, theme of being more directed to like alt-right people, and more articles are starting to like pop up that, like, a couple of years ago, if someone submitted an article that was more like, fucking disgusting refugees, something, then the comments would be like, why the fuck is this on this part of the website? Like, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. And now more and more, this is like, oh yeah, people are actually having discussions in these things, and they're not just like straight up negative against this. It's like mostly in favor of those. And then you have to kind of realize that, like, okay, so if a lot of the content is linked like such as these, and a lot of the discussions is in favor of it, and I can't really find any other comments that are against it, most likely the majority of this part of the website is leaning to certain political faction, or they like something specifically, or they hate something else, or like something this and that, and I don't think that is self-evident when you go into Reddit. It just looks like an impartial website that is just like, it's just content, right?
No, you're absolutely right about that, because I started visiting Reddit sometime shortly after I started working, like post-graduation, right? So we're talking like, I don't know, like 2011, 2012 maybe. So I've seen it grow for sure. And yeah, back then there was this kind of feeling that like Reddit was more unknown. It was kind of hidden. It was a very nerdy thing, And this is true of everything though. Like it starts off really, I don't know, well contained, well moderated, depending on subreddit, of course, because again, everyone has their different rules, and the admins don't really care how you administer something, as long as it doesn't violate laws or global rules that they set. So like back then, I used Reddit a lot for kind of nerd culture stuff, like mechanical keyboards was a subreddit I visited a lot, because I started doing research on mechanical keyboards. And that community to this day is still really good, I think, because it's literally just a bunch of keyboard enthusiasts, right? Like that's all you really talk about there. The smaller subreddits, the general trend is that smaller subreddits are quote unquote better, because their discussions tend to be well contained and they are of narrow focus, right? But you go to the larger subreddits, such as news, politics, I've heard, like atheism became world news became one of the what is it, front page subreddits. Like here's the thing, if you don't have an account at Reddit, you're going to be fed the stuff that Reddit thinks, like the admin or the board of Reddit thinks that you would enjoy. So it's like advice animals, pics, cute, I don't know, like stuff like that, right?
That?
Yeah, the all section.
Cute pictures, basically.
AWW all, that one too. I'm subscribed to that one though. But like, but if you have your own account, you can cater your Reddit experience to what you want. So the crazy thing is that, similar to social media, what I see and what someone else sees on Reddit can be completely different.
Yeah.
Purely because of, how we've decided to design our quote unquote front pages of the internet, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the reason why we have this kind of clickbait title is because Reddit's tagline is literally the front page of the internet. And so, in a way, it's like, does it truly deserve this coveted award? Because if you were to ask me this question maybe a few years ago, I might have, I would say yes and no, right? Because part of it comes from the fact that Reddit is a really good resource. It really is. These days, more often than not, if I have a question about something that's kind of like niche or like subculture related, I will go to Reddit because I'm thinking to myself, there's likely to be a community there, and Reddit is a nice platform for like congregation, right? But at the same time, like I realized the same thing that you did, Dennis, where it's like there's a lot of like systemic bias in that site now. Like you can game the system, you can build subreddits purely on ideology. There's astroturfing, which is like corporations will pay people to like just go post and shit.
Yeah.
And to like there's a whole subreddit that exists for this. It's called Hail Corporate. It's literally people calling out other posts on Reddit to say these are paid shills, like don't listen to them. And then it's bad because there's a lot of internal policing in Reddit, and it's because there isn't a solid moderation system. So there's whole communities founded on the idea of brigading other subreddits, right? And what that is like it's literally telling everyone in a subreddit to attack like another post or to go in there and comment bomb it,
I guess.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So it's like in a way I feel like you have to be careful about how you visit that site, because just like how you should be careful about visiting the internet, right? Like we always joke about it because I think as kids we grew up and all the quote unquote adult warnings would be like, be careful what you listen to on the internet. It might not be true, and you got to stick to the safe approved Microsoft websites, right? And we're like, yeah, whatever, man. But yeah, it's true because sometimes you'll go on Reddit and you'll read stuff and you'll be like, that's not true, is it?
Yeah.
And if you do research, you can be like, oh, it's more nuanced than that. But
yeah,
everyone seems to be agreeing that like this is how history went down. You're like, I don't know about this, man.
Yeah, I think a good example of that was I think some week ago there was an article that was being spread about the possibility of an alternative dimension had been found by NASA. It was like, holy fucking shit! Like,
oh, that's incredible.
Like, when I saw that headline, I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, this is insane if this is true. And then I clicked on it, and people like fortunately in the comments there, they were like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, this is some like really shitty news website. And then, but then because someone said that spread, and it becomes this like loop of like, oh, well, they reference them and they reference them, and then it becomes this like, so when I finally found the like original thing, it was just like, oh, okay, someone said that like they found some kind of signal, they don't really know what it is, out of these like a lot of these different theories.
Oh, it's like one of the possibilities.
Yeah, one of the possible theories is that it might be this, and for me to get to that was was a few clicks away, and that's when you've lost the majority of people. So
exactly.
And then because I already, like, I said that to my girlfriend, like when I saw the headline, I was like, holy shit, can you believe this? And then I said it, and then like a couple of minutes later I was like, by the way, I retract what I said before, this is not true. Like, I had to do that because I felt shitty about it.
I'm glad you did, because like I'm not super good at it, but like I think I've shared stuff from Reddit where I'm like, oh wait, I don't know if this is true anymore,
yeah
like it can all change in like an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I think but also for the fact that you talked about the, what is it, astroturfing. Yeah, sorry. Just because I had an example that I thought about too. It was just like so there was this young guy who wanted to get on. I think he wanted to become like an intern at the Fallon like late night show.
Oh, with Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, right?
Oh.
And so he put up a video on the video subreddit, right, which is one of the big general ones where you also one of the Reddits where you clearly have a certain theme of videos that are being shared there. And so his video got onto the top of that one and then got onto the top of the front page. And obviously, as the front page of the internet, it was seen by so many people. It was basically like an application video where he's trying to make like a comedy kind of skit, right? I think like a stand-up thing. And eventually, the show saw him and they're like, fuck yeah, like the internet wants him, right? So we'll hire him. And then afterwards it came out that like he had bought like a bunch of upvotes to like make it go to the top like so fast. And usually, it like, because some of the comments were too like, wait, this isn't that funny, like why is this on the front page? But you had to scroll down to see them. But
Yeah.
because people just got fed into the hype and they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's get this guy on this thing, and
especially within the first 24 hours, right? Like when a thread becomes hot,
yeah,
and like it kind of just amplifies the general message. And like
Yeah.
it's just like Twitter, right? It's like, oh look, this one guy posted this thing, everyone upvoted, everyone retweeted, everyone like it, and people are like, yeah, we like it. But then some people are like, wait a minute, like let's think about this. No, we're not gonna take the time to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, oh Jesus Christ, I guess the oh no, but it's because it's one of the worst examples that there is. It's like the freaking Boston bomber, right?
Oh,
you remember that, right? Because that thing basically, so for anyone who's listening,
you know what's even, oh actually give the context first.
Yeah, so for anyone who's listening, so basically I don't remember how many years ago it was now, but there was an incident in America where a bombing, right? And
yeah, during the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, exactly. And people were like, especially on Reddit, they were like, fuck yeah, we're gonna find this guy, like let's use our internet power and try to find this person. And I guess very shortly summarizes that they found someone that they like, basically it got spread that, oh, this person is potentially the bomber, and that person wasn't the bomber. And I think if I'm not misremembering, that person like committed suicide because they got so incredibly attacked because of people on Reddit kind of brigaded, as you said, onto this person.
They like dox the person. But like what I read recently, and this is why I said, oh my gosh, this is what's crazy about it, is someone made a comment that said actually the Boston bomber, like the person that committed suicide, like already did prior to like the height of the Reddit witch hunt, right?
Oh shit, okay.
And it's like, this blows my mind because that's the problem, right? Is that, I mean this is unfortunate because we chose two very lengthy subjects for today's show, right?
Yeah.
Because this is related to the quote unquote problem of media today, like media bias and stuff like that. Because there was a really good comment I saw earlier when I was surfing Reddit, and someone was saying like, I used to think Reddit was immune to this media bias and stuff like that because, we're literally this community of like people on the internet who just talk about things independently. But no, that's not the case at all, because everything that's being posted there now, everything that's being relayed by, people who are attached to media companies or, see the world a certain way, there's all implicit bias in all of it, and it just gets amplified the more people are on the site, the more a certain majority is on the site. I definitely feel like, there are cases where you can go to that site and get a lot of good information, right? But then there are times where even in the small subreddits, like even in like the Twitch subreddit or the OBS subreddit, to talk about streaming and the technicalities of it, you'll get very heated debates about like what's good for you and what's not in terms of being a streamer, the technical aspects of it. And sometimes it's really good to have that, obviously, like it's good to have that discussion, but at the same time you can also see certain biases creep up, and it's not, I don't want to say it's necessarily a bad thing all the time, because sometimes there are standardized ways to do things, right? Like you don't want to set your settings in a completely stupid way that blows up your computer or something like that, right? So that's why most people will refer to something a certain way. But yeah, you'll definitely notice I mean, sadly, you know, if we were to kind of harken back to how we started the show, you know, there's people talking about protests and stuff like that, and you're always going to see like a certain group of discussion that's geared towards discrediting, you know, the cause of the protest, or like, oh, like, have you thought about this though, like as a counter to it. And I'm not saying it's not good to have that, because honestly, you do want to have open and nuanced discussion. But sometimes you have to wonder why people are saying the things they're saying as well.
Yeah, I think it's just pretty much a cautionary advice to anyone, I guess, to who is going on to Reddit, is just that like this very like neutral looking website is something that like it's not something to be scared of. It's just that like you have to just be aware of yourself, and like because I think at a certain point Reddit became one of the websites that I almost, it was the only source where I looked for news, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's still kind of is, but when I feel like something is like, wait, this maybe like this feels like there's more to it, and that feeling is something, you know, coming, I don't know where that come from, but it's just, I guess, finding out these different things, like, hey, that was totally not true at all, or like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you have to look it up yourself. But a lot of the times people don't have that, and they just go on to like, you know, spreading shit and like talking about stuff that as an actual truth, while not looking up if it actually is. And I think this is like super apparent. The almost the best ways of looking at this is like when you go into the freaking pocket dimensions of there's like these two subreddits specifically that I'm thinking about. One is like the North Korea subreddit, where it's basically like,
Pyongyang.
yeah, exactly, where you basically only talk positively about North Korea.
I actually think that one's really funny.
Yeah,
because it's the long con, right?
Yeah.
It's like a troll of the site.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like it's a joke. Like I think, you know, it's like it's very hard to imagine.
We hope,
that,
right?
Yeah, we hope. So it's like hard to confirm, but the fact of the matter is that there's a part of the website there's just like, it's just endless positive comments and threads about North Korea, and there's another one there which I found now through the Hong Kong protests, right? Where it's basically the opposite end of like the Chinese perspective of saying that everything that Hong Kong does and like America is bad, and like
Yeah.
all of the videos that you see of like that the shit that happened in Hong Kong from I guess from our view of social media, you know, like undercover police doing like shit, like really awful shit, and then you go into that subreddit where everyone's like, well, the Hong Kong protesters are like freaking psychopaths, here's a video of some guy setting someone on fire, and I'm like, what the fuck am I viewing? Like, what is this? And it's hard for some people, you know, maybe they saw one of these two ends and they have no idea about the other one. And I'm not saying that subreddit, you know, is truthful, but in other topics this could actually be a thing. And I don't know, for me, I guess, or I'm curious to hear your thought on this, but it's like because now we're pretty much given the cautionary advice of Reddit, but is there like nothing positive about it then, or?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's funny. It's really apt that you brought that up, because in a way I do have skin in the game.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not completely sure where to stand on a lot of the discourse about Hong Kong, to be quite honest, right?
Yeah.
And I know what you're talking about, because like I've seen that video too, where the protesters do set fire to a person, and I was like, that is really messed up.
Yeah.
You know, I understand what that subreddit is trying to accomplish, you know, like, and I was gonna bring up something earlier that annoys me personally, but it's the fact that Reddit and a lot of, obviously, like Western media has an implicit bias against China,
Yeah.
But like China is the country, and you're always going to hear or you're always going to see the sentence or the phrase, I don't hate Chinese people, I hate the Chinese government, right? It's the communists I don't like and stuff like that, right? But then like if you scroll through Reddit, you're going to see a lot of like anti-Asian statements that just never get flagged.
Yeah.
And it's always based on like this quote unquote like I hate the Chinese government type of stuff. And that's what irks me personally, because you try to bring it up and it's like, oh, stop complaining, blah blah blah, like you don't have any right to complain about that type of stuff. And it's just ironic because a lot of times, because I think Tencent, if you don't know, is one of the largest corporations in China,
I know that.
has a share in Reddit now because some sort of investor shit that I'm not super aware of. But people keep going, oh, it's because China has a hold on Reddit now. They're censoring everything that's Chinese related. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, because I can go find shit like, hey, look at these Chinese people eating dogs. Hey, look at like China doing this. And I'm like, I don't see this bias that you're seeing, And so this is what I'm talking about when I mean like you can have a completely different experience on Reddit than I or you or someone else we know, just depending on how you cater your feed, or how you like when you visit the website, like based on what you look at, like you're going to get completely different voices, right? And so yeah, it is very hard. It like I also used to think I could go to Reddit for answers for something, right? And once I started seeing things that, I mean, I'm not going to say that I know everything, right? But I started seeing things that deviated in a strange way, or like I felt like, hey, this might not be right. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe this, this isn't like the correct information. You go do your own research and you find out, yeah, maybe, it's more nuanced than that. Or maybe like, yeah, what this one guy said, like one sentence is right, but the rest of what he said is wrong.
Yeah.
And then what this other person said is like completely off from what is actually factual. And that's when you start to realize, yeah, this is still just a community of people that can write anything they want to, as long as it's not banned. And you can literally make shit up, as long as people run with it.
Yeah, and I think and I think mostly that we have focused on now is like, I guess the hobby subreddits, or mainly the bigger one, like the political one, or like the newsworthy one, where it's like, it's essential that at least for the bigger ones, that you kind of have these realizations too. I think the other ones that I've been a lot of interested in, and the ones that I guess seen the positive sides of, is that when you go into a niche subject that has a lot of hype currently in it,
Oh yeah.
you can really find people that you can connect with in another way. So it's very interesting. But like, so one of the examples I had was that I got into Breaking Bad like super late. Like I got into the series when it was like what is it, the second to last season was just running, and then
Okay.
I like power pushed up to season 5, I think it is, and the 6th one was the last one. And then when I caught up, and then you're in this subreddit that is like waiting for the last season, and there's so much content. It's just like, tens of thousands of people that are just like waiting together, and they try to find different ways to like make things fun, or like they try to analyze shit. And I think one of the biggest like famous image from that is like people started to try to analyze every like scene and like try to figure out what was gonna happen. And there's this
man.
great image of like Breaking Bad where it's like there's one shot from when they're sitting by a table, and someone has made like, arrows on like everything in the entire scene, like, the fork is turned in this way because he doesn't like her, and then this like reflection here means this thing. And
That's like a meme now to
yeah,
like overanalyze scenes,
yeah, and that's a meme because but in the beginning it was just so funny, and that thing also made it funny. It was just lighthearted. And I do think that for those like specific topics, when you're looking for more, I guess, non-essential topics, then you can really find some stuff that are funny. But at the same time, you can also find some like real toxicity in that when you lost the hype, because the interesting part about these forums is that I guess they don't really go away, but they kind of die in one way or another if they're following a series or if it's for a game.
Mhm.
Or you know, like I've talked many times on this cast about ARMS, and you know, before it got this resurgence now with potentially having a character in another game, Smash, it was like a year of, you know, I had to remove it because it's just so like constant threads about like, oh, this shit sucks, like the game is like this worst thing ever, and then no one is like, you know, there's no discussion, it's just like negativity.
Dude,
And
I totally know what you mean because in terms of watching a show or keeping up with one, there's an anime called Kill la Kill that I got into maybe like 12 to mid-season basically.
yeah.
And there's like a big twist in the middle of it, and so like I caught up just in time to like go to freak the fuck out about this show. And I go to the subreddit, and then like we're just like hype train 1000% for every single week, like a new episode comes out, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you look at that subreddit now, and it's like there's no activity. Like like I posted something one time where I collected all the Blu-rays from Japan,
Mm.
and that was it. Like after a certain while, like yeah, the show's not airing anymore. There's nothing new. What do you even talk about? And so yeah, you can see subreddits kind of live and die because of stuff like that.
Mm.
And similar to what you were talking about with ARMS, it wasn't a video game, but like even the Android subreddit or the Google Pixel subreddit, it's like I come here for like cool phone news, right? At some point, you know, after years of just being subscribed to these subreddits, it just becomes, oh, like Sam shit. Google doesn't know what they're doing. Apple's fucking terrible. You know, it's just like the same opinions over and over again. And I'm like, okay, or whatever, you know.
And I think just in general that like Reddit, it has its strengths and it has like its weaknesses. I think just going into this website, and I think the reason why we're like doing this cautionary, I guess, advice for it is just because it's very easy to kind of lose track of where you are when it comes to this, and then get complacent in like, well, this is what I read, this is how it is, and this is the truth, right? And I think that's where the kind of danger could set in, that you could actually get more affected by this website than you or initially would consider, because it looks so harmless. But
Yeah, I've noticed it for myself as well. And it's, I mean, I don't know. It's like unfortunate in the sense that like I feel like I'm not thinking for myself, you know?
yeah.
But like, yeah, I have a friend who like I would used to send them a lot of Reddit links, and then they'd be like, man, Reddit is so filled with like liberals and stuff. Like this is so biased, like blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm just trying to put it out there, right?
Yeah.
And then like, you know, years have passed, the tables have kind of turned. This friend of mine will like tell me, oh yeah, like, you know, on Reddit they say this, so this got to be true, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like years ago you told me you never trusted this website.
Oh
You
my
know?
god, is infected.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what is happening? Like, if anything, I've tried to scale back, you know, but
Yeah.
it's very difficult because, like I said, Reddit is still like this really good repository of information. But what I mean by that is you know, communities that are dedicated to certain things. Like I do not particularly want to go to that website to find out about like I don't try to actively search for certain things about like politics or whatever or news, right? There used to be an active subreddit called Neutral News, which actually did a really good job of kind of just presenting like as non-biased
Interesting.
of an article as possible. But the mods are no longer active, so that subreddit's dead, right?
Yeah,
So
that's rough.
that's just what happens, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's gonna happen anyway. Like, you know, when George Floyd was killed, I mean, Reddit was one of the first places I went to as well, right? Like, I feel like there's no escaping it. Like, I already have enough distrust of mainstream media as it is that I'm like, well, at the very least with Reddit, what you can get is you can get the discussion, and
Yeah.
arguably that's what's more important, right? Like this friend of mine also said to me something that I would have echoed years ago, and I still probably agree with. It's like, don't read the article, read the comments. But it's like at the same time, like the top level comment could be the shittiest take, you know?
Yeah.
So like there's a very clear love-hate relationship with this website, and that's why I don't want people to think that like, you know, all we're gonna do is shit on it and be like, don't go to Reddit, you know? It's just you just you have to be willing to take the good with the bad with this website, you know? Like it's there's a way to like navigate it, and it's not that easy, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think I guess if we're taking like the final takes on this website now, I guess like the one really positive memory I have of this website is that, so when I was in the ARMS community, I was pretty much the only Swedish player in the game, and there is a leaderboard that is presented within the game, and on that leaderboard you can see what country people are from, and I was the only Swedish person on that leaderboard for so long,
Oh wow.
until I noticed another guy coming up on the leaderboard, and then who surpassed me and then was always at the top of the leaderboard, who was from Sweden, and I had no idea how to reach this person. I was like, because to get some context, it's like Nintendo Switch, you can add people that you've played with, but you can't message them. Basically, they've foregone the entire thing. Like, basically, it's the safest means of communication is having nothing at all. Like, okay, great.
Yeah,
so,
no harassment.
yeah, exactly. No harassment, because you can't talk. It was like, okay, well, interesting, but I want to get to know this person. And so what I did was that, because I saw them and sometimes I would match up with them, and it's like, I can see that this person is like, it's in the same country, we speak the same language of this thing that I love. So what I did was that I posted on all social media channels that I could find, like Twitter, and then finding different Facebook groups, and then I posted on Reddit, in the ARMS, what is a subreddit, and I basically just said like, hello, where are you? Can I talk to you? Like, can I find you some way? We've played so many times. This is your username. I put it in the title. And he found me. Like, he messaged me, and I was like, oh, dude, I was just scrolling Reddit, and I saw my username, and I was like, oh, fuck, wait, I know this guy. And then he started talking to me, and, we've played so much since that moment, like, because we got into the Discord of the game, and he was only playing the game casually, but was really great at it. And then when he got into that Discord, me and him played so much, and then he dominated the European scene after that. He had never played a tournament, but he was just like, yeah, I might try it. And then I think he was undefeated for like 3 months in tournaments. He just like completely demolished the entire scene. And then he was so good at the game that he got bored of like winning that kind of like level.
Wow.
And him and his friend started playing it together. They shared it. And so when I went to the south of Sweden and commentated a Smash tournament, I actually met up with them, and we played like together. And it was such a like it sounds so weird, but it's like, it wouldn't honestly been possible if I didn't post that thing on Reddit and he had the same relationship to that website.
Yeah.
So it's not all bad. That's what I'm trying to say. But
absolutely.
But
I have a similar story to that. I mean, like not as a because this is a really good example of like the good of Reddit and the good of the internet, really. Like, because I am an optimist and I generally believe people are good, and that yes, you shouldn't be giving out your bank account info or your address on the internet, but generally people are not out to get you. Unless they use scam language like hello my friend, I'm a Nigerian prince who's something, but like when I had moved to Tokyo and I was only there for like a month in or something like that, I was surfing the Japan Tokyo subreddits, and I saw a post where it was like, hey, any Tokyo gamers out there? And I thought, hey, I should go check that out. And so I like posted in there. It was like, hey, yeah, like I just moved here, and I play these games, and this is my Steam ID or whatever. And this guy messaged me, or he replied to me and said like, hey, like your name looks really familiar or something like that. And we kind of like went back and forth, and we realized we had a mutual friend. Like he was the coworker of one of my friends in Tokyo. And I was like, dude, no way. Like, unfortunately, like we never ended up like actually getting a game together or whatever. But I just thought it was so crazy that like, what are the chances that I would run into you on Reddit? Like someone who is like so in proximity of my social circle already. you know.
Yeah. I mean,
so yeah, wow.
it definitely is a website to I guess acknowledge in a way as well. But
Final question: old
yeah.
Reddit or new Reddit?
Oh, old Reddit for sure. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's right. I have
Yeah.
I have the plugin, the Reddit enhancement suite, because I can't stand the
Yes.
new one.
Exactly. I do not know actually how the new Reddit looks like because of that, because I've only used the plugin to make it look like the old one.
Yeah, it's so funny. People see me surfing Reddit and like, oh, you use the old one. I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's the superior one. Like I honestly don't really remember what the bad part about the new Reddit is, but I assume
It's less screen real estate, honestly.
Ah.
It's just like they try to make it look pretty, but
Mm.
like there's more white space. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just I don't know. Like I know that if we were to just jump into it, we would get used to it.
Yeah.
But
No.
I just like all the bells and whistles of the old like old Reddit plus the plugin that some third party made, not the actual admins of the website.
But that, I think that kind of guess summarizes and I guess gives people a bit of insight on our takes on Reddit as a website, and I guess we both agree on that it shouldn't be the front page of the internet, maybe, but that or it considered it, but you know, it's definitely something to look out for and know that it exists at least, you know. But with that
I was
being
gonna say Google is the front page of the internet, right,
yeah,
guys?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's a whole nother can of worms in terms
Yeah.
of like surveillance state / bias, blah blah blah. So, whoops.
Yeah, but with that being said, we're gonna head to the outro and finish the cast. So I guess for this now, Dave, it's kind of, this is the third episode that we've done here, and I honestly think that this might have been the longest one so far. But I feel
Potentially, yeah.
potentially, and I feel like this. We're still struggling a bit with the structure, but I still enjoy these discussions, and I hope someone who's listening to this is enjoying them too. Well, I mean, I can
let
live
us
with...
know in the comments.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit that like button, smash that like button, ring the bell.
Oh my
If you're
God.
watching on YouTube, leave a comment.
No, but
hit us up on Twitter.
Seriously though, I do want to, because I got very happy of that we got this podcast on Spotify, which was way easier than I thought it would be. It's legit to just make an account on a website, you link
easy
that
money.
shit.
Joe Rogan, get out of here, dude. No,
yeah. You think I couldn't do it, man? I can do it. No, it's just you just link it up, and then it was up like an hour later. And so I'm happy to, you know, say that this is now on Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, and I think you linked it as well to another like
we host it on Sounder FM, so you can also play it directly off of Sounder.
Oh yeah. But I was thinking of the podcast app that you use, but maybe that's not.
Pocket Cast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, yeah, you can get a direct link to it too. I could post it as well, but yeah, like you can find our podcast, I think, syndicated on most major podcast apps and networks now.
That's sick. That's some good ass technology there.
Yeah, dude.
I think this was a good episode, and I don't think we've actually decided on the topics for the next one, but stay tuned for more. I guess you can follow me, Defur, on Twitter, and the Dave, T3hDave, on Twitter. Otherwise, we've started to post this on Fellows TV on Twitter as well, so if you want updates, you know, from a neutral standpoint and not just me shouting in an empty void, you can follow that account as well.
Shouting Ninjala!
Yeah. Inside jokes aside, I think I enjoy these casts, and I hope that you all do that tunes into this as well. So see you.
Don't forget to plug the music.
The music, of course. So the music, of course, is made by Gittymane, which is it's a old classmate of mine who does some sick beats, and this next one that we're gonna finish with is actually one that he made specifically for this cast, called the Summer. So we're gonna take it away with that and say goodbye for today. So thank you.
Sick. Peace out.
Goodbye.